The glass walls of the Monroe Tech headquarters gleamed in the afternoon sunlight as Ethan Monroe stood at the head of the conference table. At 36 years old, he had built an empire worth $3 billion, transforming a small software startup into one of the most powerful tech companies in Silicon Valley. His tailored Italian suit fit perfectly across his broad shoulders, and his dark hair was styled with precision. Everything about Ethan Monroe screamed success, power, and control. But today, something felt wrong. The quarterly earnings presentation droned on as nervous executives shifted through their slides. Ethan gripped the edge of the table, feeling an uncomfortable pressure building in his chest. He tried to focus on the numbers projected on the screen, but his vision started to blur. The pressure intensified, spreading like fire from his chest down his left arm. Just close the deal, he told himself. Power through it. One of his vice presidents was speaking about projected growth in the Asian markets when Ethan felt his legs weaken beneath him. The pen he had been holding clattered to the polished mahogany table. Every face in the room turned toward him as he clutched his chest, his eyes widening in shock and pain. Ethan tried to speak, to tell them he was fine, but no words came out. The room tilted sideways and he felt himself falling. The last thing he heard before darkness swallowed him was someone screaming for help and the sound of chairs scraping frantically across the floor. When consciousness slowly returned, Ethan had no idea how much time had passed. Bright fluorescent lights burned his eyes as he tried to focus. The steady beep of monitors filled his ears, and he became aware of tubes and wires attached to his body. The antiseptic smell of a hospital invaded his nostrils. Everything felt heavy, like his body was made of lead. "Mr. Monroe, can you hear me?" A female voice cut through the fog in his mind. Ethan turned his head slowly toward the voice, and his heart stopped for reasons that had nothing to do with his medical condition. Standing beside his hospital bed, holding a medical chart and wearing a white coat with a stethoscope draped around her neck, was Emma Sullivan, the woman he had loved more than anything 3 years ago. The woman he had destroyed with his own cruelty and stupidity. Her honey-colored hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup that somehow made her natural beauty even more striking. Those emerald green eyes that had once looked at him with such love and adoration now regarded him with cool professionalism. She had filled out slightly since he last saw her, her figure more womanly and confident. She looked successful, composed, and absolutely breathtaking. "Emma," Ethan croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dr. Sullivan," she corrected him immediately, her tone firm but not unkind. "You suffered a severe myocardial infarction during your meeting. In simpler terms, you had a major heart attack. The paramedics brought you to St. Catherine Medical Center, and I performed the emergency procedure that saved your life. You are stable now, but you will need to remain hospitalized for at least 10 days. Ethan stared at her, his mind reeling. Of all the doctors and all the hospitals in San Francisco, fate had brought him to her. The last time he had seen Emma, she had been crying on his doorstep, begging him to listen to her, to trust her. And he had slammed the door in her face after calling her terrible things, believing the lies that his business partner had planted in his head. "I need to talk to you," Ethan said, his voice stronger now despite the pain in his chest. "Please, Emma, I need to explain what happened." "There is nothing to explain, Mr. Monroe," Emma replied, checking the monitors beside his bed without looking at him. "What happened between us was 3 years ago. I have moved on with my life, and I suggest you focus on your recovery right now. Your heart is weak, and any stress could cause another episode. Please just give me 5 minutes. I was an idiot. I believed." Emma's hand froze on the chart she was writing in. "Richard, your business partner Richard, told you lies about me? He showed me fake bank statements," Ethan admitted, shame flooding through him. "He made it look like you were stealing money from my accounts. He had fake emails, fake transaction records. I was paranoid about people using me for my money, and he played on that fear. I did not realize until months later that he had fabricated everything because he wanted me focused only on the business. By then, you had disappeared. I could not find you anywhere." "So you just believed him," Emma said quietly, finally meeting his eyes. "You did not even ask me about it. You just accused me, called me a gold digger and a thief, and threw me out of your life like I was garbage." The pain in her voice cut deeper than any physical pain Ethan had ever felt. "I know. I have no excuse. I was wrong, Emma. Completely wrong. I have regretted it every single day since then." "Well, your regret does not change anything," Emma said, a professional mask slipping for just a moment to reveal the hurt underneath. "It does not change the nights I cried myself to sleep. It does not change how you made me feel worthless. It does not change the fact that I had to rebuild my entire life after you destroyed me." Before Ethan could respond, the door to his room opened and a nurse entered carrying a tray of medication. Emma immediately retreated behind her professional demeanor, consulting with the nurse about his treatment plan. Ethan watched her work, noticing the confident way she carried herself, the respect the other medical staff showed her. She had clearly worked hard to become a successful cardiologist. He felt a surge of pride mixed with deep regret. After the nurse left, Emma turned back to him. "I will be checking on you regularly over the next few days. However, I think it would be best if another doctor takes over your primary care. I will arrange for Dr. Harrison to assume your case starting tomorrow." "No," Ethan said firmly. "I want you as my doctor." "That is not a good idea," Emma replied, shaking her head. "Our history makes it inappropriate." "You are the best cardiologist in this hospital," Ethan countered. "I did my research while building the new wing we donated last year. Your success rate is extraordinary. I trust you with my life. Emma, please do not pass me off to someone else." Emma stood there for a long moment, clearly conflicted. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. But we keep everything strictly professional. No discussions about the past unless absolutely necessary." "Agreed," Ethan said, though they both knew that agreement would be impossible to keep. Over the next few days, Emma came to check on him 3 times daily. She was always professional, efficient, and distant. But Ethan noticed small things: the way her hand trembled slightly when she had to touch him to check his pulse, the way she avoided prolonged eye contact, the way she left his room just a little faster than necessary. She still felt something. She had to. Ethan used the time to observe her, to learn about the woman she had become. He asked the nurses about her and discovered she volunteered at free clinics on her days off. She mentored young medical students. She had published research papers on innovative cardiac procedures. Emma had become everything he knew she would be, and he had missed all of it because of his own stupidity. On the 5th day of his hospitalization, something happened that changed everything. Ethan was resting with his eyes closed when he heard the door open. He assumed it was a nurse, but then he heard a small voice. "Mommy, why are we at the hospital?" Ethan's eyes flew open. Standing in the doorway, holding Emma's hand, was a little girl who looked about 2 years old. She had dark curls that fell past her shoulders and the most striking grey eyes exactly like Ethan's. The shape of her face, the dimple in her left cheek, even the way she tilted her head curiously. Everything about this child looked like a miniature version of Ethan himself. His heart monitor started beeping faster. Emma's face went pale as she realized what had happened. She had clearly not intended for Ethan to see her daughter. "Sophie, honey," Emma said quickly, her voice strained. "Let's go back to the waiting room with Aunt Rachel." "Who's that, Mommy?" "He is just a patient, sweetheart. Come on, we need to go." Emma practically dragged the child out of the room, but the damage was done. Ethan had seen her, had seen those unmistakable grey eyes, had seen his own features reflected in that innocent little face. His hands were shaking as he stared at the closed door. A nurse came rushing in, alerted by his elevated heart rate. "Mr. Monroe, you need to calm down. Your heart cannot handle this kind of stress." But Ethan could not calm down. His mind was racing with impossible thoughts. That little girl looked exactly like him. Exactly. And if she was 2 years old, that meant Emma would have gotten pregnant right around the time they broke up 3 years ago. The timeline fit perfectly. When Emma returned an hour later for her evening rounds, Ethan was waiting. She tried to maintain her professional demeanor, but he saw the panic in her eyes. "That little girl," Ethan said quietly. "What's her name?" Emma's jaw tightened. "That is none of your business." "Sophie," Ethan continued as if she had not spoken. You called her Sophie. And she is about 2 years old, is she not? Mr. Monroe, I really think we should focus on your medical care and nothing else. She has my eyes, Emma. Ethan's voice broke. She has my exact eyes. The same grey color, the same shape, and that dimple in her left cheek. I have the same dimple. Emma, please tell me the truth. Is Sophie my daughter? Emma stood frozen, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Fear, anger, sadness, and something else Ethan could not quite identify. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again. Tears began to form in her emerald eyes. Answer me, Emma, Ethan begged. Please, I need to know the truth. Yes, Emma finally whispered, the word barely audible. Sophie is your daughter. She was born 9 months after you threw me out of your life. The silence that followed Emma's confession was deafening. Ethan felt like the world had tilted off its axis. He had a daughter, a beautiful little girl with his eyes and his smile, and he had known nothing about her for 2 years. The monitors around him started beeping frantically as his emotions sent his heart rate skyrocketing. Emma, you need to calm down, Emma said, immediately switching back to doctor mode. She pressed the call button for the nurse. Your heart cannot handle this kind of stress right now. I have a daughter, Ethan said, his voice hollow with shock. For 2 years, I have had a daughter, and you never told me. Do not you dare, Emma hissed, her professional composure cracking completely. Do not you dare make this about you being a victim. I tried to tell you, Ethan. I tried so many times. What are you talking about? I never got any message from you because you blocked me, Ethan shot back, her voice rising. The moment you threw me out, you blocked my number, my emails, everything. I tried calling from different phones. I sent letters to your office that your assistant probably threw away. I even came to your building twice, but security would not let me up. You had erased me completely like I never existed. The nurse burst into the room, looking alarmed at the monitor readings. Dr. Sullivan, I need you to step out. His vitals are too unstable. No, Ethan protested weakly. Please, Emma, do not leave. We need to talk about this. Not now, Emma said firmly, though tears were streaming down her face. You need to rest or you will have another heart attack. We will talk later, I promise. But right now, you need to calm down. She left the room quickly, leaving Ethan alone with the nurse who administered a sedative. As the medication pulled him towards sleep, his last thought was of those grey eyes staring at him with innocent curiosity. His daughter. He had a daughter named Sophie. When Ethan woke the next morning, his first visitor was not Emma, but a woman he had never seen before. She was in her early 30s with auburn hair and a no-nonsense expression. She introduced herself as Rachel Chen, Emma's best friend and Sophie's godmother. Emma asked me to check on you, Rachel said, her tone frosty. She had an emergency surgery this morning. So, I am here to make sure you understand a few things before she comes back. I want to see my daughter, Ethan said immediately. That is not your decision to make, Rachel replied sharply. You do not get to waltz back into Emma's life and make demands. Do you have any idea what you put her through? Ethan felt shame wash over him. Tell me. I need to know. Rachel crossed her arms. When Emma discovered she was pregnant, she was terrified and alone. You had cut her off completely. She was finishing her medical residency, working 18-hour shifts while pregnant, barely able to afford rent. She had morning sickness so bad she could barely function. But she still showed up every single day because she had no choice. I did not know, Ethan whispered. If I had known, I would have been there. Would you? Rachel challenged. Because the man who believed lies about the woman he claimed to love does not sound like someone who would have been supportive. Emma went through her entire pregnancy alone. She gave birth alone. Ethan, do you understand what that means? She went through labor for 14 hours with no one to hold her hand, no one to tell her it would be okay. I was out of the country and could not get back in time. She was completely alone. The image of Emma in pain and scared, going through something so monumental without support, made Ethan feel physically ill. I am so sorry. I know that does not fix anything, but I am truly sorry. Sorry does not change the past, Rachel said. But maybe it can change the future. Emma is terrified right now. She has built a life for herself and Sophie. She is scared you are going to come in and disrupt everything. I want to be. Being a father is more than biology, Rachel told him. It is about showing up every single day. It is about putting your child's needs before your own. Can you honestly say you are ready for that? Yes, Ethan said without hesitation. I know I failed Emma 3 years ago. I know I cannot get that time back, but I want to try. I want to be the father Sophie deserves and the man Emma should have had from the beginning. Rachel studied him for a long moment. Emma still loves you, you know. She tried so hard to get over you, but she never could. Seeing you again has brought back all that pain. If you hurt her again, if you hurt Sophie, I will make your life miserable. Do you understand me? I understand, Ethan said. And I will not hurt them. I swear it. Later that afternoon, Emma finally returned. She looked exhausted with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of a sleepless night. She checked his vitals silently, avoiding his gaze. Emma, please talk to me, Ethan said gently. I know you are angry and you have every right to be, but we need to discuss this. We need to figure out how to move forward. What is there to figure out? Emma asked tiredly. You want to be part of Sophie's life and legally I cannot stop you. We will arrange visitation once you are recovered. Is that all you want? Ethan asked. Just cold visitation arrangements. Emma finally looked at him, her emerald eyes filled with unshed tears. What else can there be? Ethan, you destroyed us 3 years ago. You believed lies about me instead of trusting the woman you claim to love. Even if we can co-parent Sophie, there is no us anymore. I never stopped loving you, Ethan said, his voice raw with emotion. Not for a single day. Every woman I met, I compared to you. Every relationship I tried to start failed because none of them were you. I was miserable without you, Emma. Completely miserable. You were miserable, Emma laughed bitterly. You were miserable in your mansion, in your private jets while I was working triple shifts to afford diapers. Do not talk to me about miserable, Ethan. You are right, Ethan said. I have no right to complain. But I am telling you the truth. Losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. And now I have discovered I lost 2 years with my daughter, too. Please, Emma, give me a chance to make this right. How? Emma asked, her voice breaking. How do you make this right? You cannot give me back those 2 years. You cannot erase the pain and the loneliness and the fear. You cannot change the fact that Sophie does not know you. Then let me start now, Ethan pleaded. Let me get to know her. Let me prove that I have changed, that I learned from my mistakes. I fired Richard 6 months ago when I discovered what he did. I have spent the last year trying to find you, Emma. I hired private investigators. I searched everywhere, but you had changed your name back to Sullivan and moved to a different part of the city. Emma wiped her eyes. I did not want to be found. I needed to protect myself and Sophie. I understand, Ethan said, and I respect that. But I am asking for a chance now. Not for me, but for Sophie. She deserves to know her father. Emma was quiet for a long time, clearly struggling with the decision. Finally, she nodded slowly. Okay, once you are released from the hospital and cleared by your doctors, we can arrange supervised visits. But slow, Ethan. We go at Sophie's pace, not yours. Thank you, Ethan said, relief flooding through him. Thank you for giving me this chance. Over the next week, as Ethan recovered in the hospital, Emma gradually began to soften toward him. They talked about Sophie, about her likes and dislikes, her favorite stories and songs. Emma showed him pictures on her phone, and Ethan felt his heart swell with love for this little person he barely knew. She loves dinosaurs, Emma said with a small smile, showing him a photo of Sophie hugging a stuffed T-Rex. And she is obsessed with pancakes. She would eat them for every meal if I let her. She gets that from me, Ethan said, remembering lazy Sunday mornings when he and Emma used to make pancakes together. Do you remember how terrible I was at flipping them? You always ended up with half of them on the floor, Emma recalled. And for the first time, she laughed. It was a genuine, warm laugh that Ethan had not heard in 3 years. And it was the most beautiful sound in the world. I have missed that laugh, he said softly. Emma's smile faded slightly. Ethan, we need to be realistic about this. Even if we can figure out co-parenting, that does not mean we can go back to what we had. Why not? Ethan asked. I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust, but people change, Emma. I have changed. Let me show you. Before Emma could respond, a commotion in the hallway interrupted them. Raised voices and the sound of someone arguing with the nurses. Then the door to Ethan's room burst open and a woman in an expensive designer suit strode in. It was Jennifer Park, Ethan's executive assistant, and the woman who had helped Richard fabricate the lies about Emma 3 years ago. Ethan, thank God you're awake, Jennifer said dramatically, completely ignoring Emma. I have been trying to see you for days, but they would not let me in. We need to discuss the company. The board is in chaos without you. Jennifer, now is not a good time, Ethan said coldly. Who is this? Jennifer asked, finally noticing Emma. Another doctor. This is Dr. Sullivan, Ethan said. She is my cardiologist and someone very important to me. And you need to leave. Jennifer's eyes narrowed as recognition dawned. Wait, Sullivan? You are that gold digger from 3 years ago. The one who tried to steal from Ethan. Get out, Emma said quietly, but there was steel in her voice. Get out now. I am not going anywhere, Jennifer said smugly. Ethan needs me. Ethan pressed the call button for security. Jennifer, you are fired. Clean out your desk. I never want to see you again. Jennifer's face went pale. What? You cannot be serious. You helped Richard lie to me about Emma, Ethan said, his voice hard. You helped destroy the best thing in my life. So, yes, I am completely serious. Security will escort you out. Security arrived moments later and removed a protesting Jennifer from the room. After she was gone, Emma sank into a chair, shaking slightly. I am sorry you had to deal with that, Ethan said. She was part of it. Emma asked. She helped fabricate those lies. Yes, I discovered the truth about 6 months ago. She and Richard were having an affair, and they both wanted me completely focused on the business with no personal distractions. They saw you as a threat to their control over me. Emma covered her face with her hands. I lost 3 years of my life because of their lies. Sophie grew up without a father because of them. I know, Ethan said, wishing he could hold her. And I take full responsibility for believing them. But they are both gone now, Emma. There is nothing standing between us anymore except the past. The past is not easy to forget, Emma whispered. I am not asking you to forget, Ethan said gently. I am asking you to consider forgiving, to consider letting me prove that I am different now, that I have learned from my mistakes. Emma looked at him for a long moment, her emerald eyes searching his face. I do not know if I can trust you again, Ethan. Trust is not something you give easily after it has been broken so completely. Then let me earn it back, Ethan said. However long it takes, whatever I need to do. Let me earn your trust again, Emma. Please. Emma stood up slowly. I need time to think about this. For now, let us focus on Sophie and what is best for her. Everything else can wait. As she left the room, Ethan felt both hope and fear. He had been given a chance to know his daughter, but winning back Emma's heart would be the hardest thing he had ever done. This time, he could not afford to fail. Ethan was released from the hospital 2 weeks after his heart attack with strict orders to rest, reduce stress, and completely change his lifestyle. But the only thing he could focus on was the upcoming meeting with Sophie. Emma had agreed to bring her to his penthouse for a supervised visit, and Ethan had spent days preparing. He had transformed one of his spare bedrooms into a space fit for a princess. Pink walls, stuffed animals, a toy chest filled with dinosaurs because Emma had said Sophie loved them, books, puzzles, and art supplies. He wanted Sophie to feel welcome, to have her own space in his home. When the doorbell rang that Saturday afternoon, Ethan's hands were shaking as he opened the door. Emma stood there holding Sophie's hand, looking nervous but determined. Sophie peeked out from behind her mother's legs, those grey eyes so like his own filled with curiosity and a touch of shyness. "Hi, Sophie," Ethan said, crouching down to her level. "My name is Ethan. Your mommy told me you like dinosaurs. Is that true?" Sophie nodded slowly, still hiding partially behind Emma. "Well, I have a whole room full of dinosaurs inside. Would you like to see them?" Sophie looked up at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, the little girl stepped forward and took Ethan's offered hand. The moment her tiny hand slipped into his, Ethan felt something shift inside him. This was his daughter, his child. A piece of his heart he had not known was missing. The first visit was tentative with Sophie warming up slowly, but Ethan was patient, letting her set the pace. He sat on the floor and played dinosaurs with her, making silly roaring noises that made her giggle. Emma watched from the couch, her expression unreadable, but her eyes soft. Over the next few weeks, the visits became more frequent and more comfortable. Sophie started calling him Mr. Ethan and then just Ethan. She would run to him when she arrived, excited to show him her latest drawings or tell him about preschool. Ethan cherished every moment, every hug, every smile. But as he grew closer to Sophie, he also found himself falling in love with Emma all over again. Watching her with their daughter, seeing the gentle patience and unconditional love she showed reminded him of why he had fallen for her in the first place. Emma was kind, brilliant, funny, and so beautiful it made his heart ache. He started bringing coffee to the hospital before Emma's morning shifts. He sent flowers with notes that said simple things like "thinking of you," or "thank you for letting me be Sophie's dad." He never pushed, never demanded more than she was willing to give. He just showed up consistently and reliably, proving through his actions that he had changed. "Emma, can we talk?" Ethan asked one evening after Sophie had fallen asleep on his couch during a movie. Emma looked at their sleeping daughter, then at Ethan. "About what?" "About us." Ethan said. "I know you said we should focus on Sophie and we have been, but Emma, I cannot stop thinking about you. I cannot stop wanting more than just co-parenting." "Ethan," Emma sighed, but he gently interrupted her. "Please, just hear me out. I know I broke your trust. I know I hurt you in ways that cannot be easily forgiven. But I have spent every day since then becoming a better man. I went to therapy to work through my trust issues. I cut toxic people out of my life. I have learned to communicate instead of assuming the worst. And Emma, I am still completely in love with you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You cannot just say these things and expect everything to be okay." "I do not expect that," Ethan said, moving closer but not touching her. "I know rebuilding what we had will take time, but I am asking for the chance to try. Let me take you on a date. Let me show you that I am worth the risk." Emma looked at Sophie, sleeping peacefully, then back at Ethan. "One date," she said finally. "But if you hurt me again, Ethan, if you give me any reason to doubt you, I am done. Sophie deserves stability. I will not let her grow up watching her parents in a toxic relationship." "You will not regret this," Ethan promised. "I swear to you, Emma. I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret giving me this chance." Their first date was at the same restaurant where they had their first date 7 years ago. Ethan had reserved the entire place for the evening, wanting privacy and wanting to show Emma that he remembered every detail of their relationship. "You remembered?" Emma said softly as they were seated at the same table they had shared all those years ago. "I remember everything about us," Ethan said. "I remember that you ordered the salmon. I remember that you laughed at my terrible joke." Emma smiled, the first genuine smile she had given him since they reunited. "Those were good times." "They can be good again," Ethan said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "Better even, because now we have Sophie, and I know what I almost lost." The evening was magical. They talked about everything, their dreams, their fears, their hopes for Sophie's future. They laughed about silly things and had serious conversations about important things. And when Ethan walked Emma to her door at the end of the night, he kissed her forehead gently. "Thank you for tonight," he whispered. "Thank you for remembering," Emma replied. More dates followed. Ethan courted Emma properly, this time with patience and genuine care. He met her friends and colleagues. He attended Sophie's preschool events. He showed up when Emma had a bad day at the hospital with flowers and takeout. He proved day after day that he was in this for the long haul. 3 months after their first date, Emma invited Ethan to stay for dinner after dropping Sophie off. As they cooked together in Emma's modest apartment, moving around each other with the ease of people who knew each other intimately, Ethan felt overwhelmingly grateful. "I love this," he said, watching Emma stir pasta sauce while Sophie colored at the kitchen table. "Love what?" Emma asked, looking up at him. "This. Us being a family. I love coming home to this." Emma set down the spoon and walked over to him. "I have been thinking a lot lately," she said. "About us, about the past, about the future." Ethan's heart started racing. "And what have you been thinking?" "I have been thinking that holding on to anger and hurt is exhausting," Emma said. "I have been thinking that you have proven yourself over and over again these past few months. And I have been thinking that I am tired of fighting how I feel about you." "How do you feel about me?" Ethan asked, hardly daring to hope. "I love you," Emma said simply. "I never stopped loving you. Even when I hated you, even when I was so hurt and angry I could barely breathe, I still loved you. And watching you with Sophie, seeing the man you have become, I am falling in love with you all over again." Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "I love you so much, Emma. I promise I will never take you for granted again. I will never believe lies over your truth. I will never let anyone come between us." They kissed then, a deep, passionate kiss that held 3 years of longing and pain and hope. When they finally pulled apart, they were both crying. "Mommy, why are you sad?" Sophie asked from the table, looking concerned. "I am not sad, sweetheart," Emma said, wiping her tears. "I am happy. Very, very happy." 6 months later, on Sophie's 3rd birthday, Ethan proposed. He did it in front of all their friends and family, including Rachel, who had become one of his closest friends. He got down on one knee while Sophie clapped excitedly, not quite understanding what was happening but thrilled by the attention. "Emma Sullivan, you are the love of my life and the mother of my beautiful daughter. I wasted 3 years being apart from you, and I do not want to waste another single day. Will you marry me and make me the happiest man alive?" "Yes," Emma said, laughing through her tears. "Yes, of course, I will marry you." Sophie cheered along with everyone else as Ethan slipped the ring onto Emma's finger. It was a new ring, nothing like the jewelry he had given her before. This one had 3 stones, an emerald for Emma's eyes, a grey diamond for Sophie, and a ruby for the passion they shared. They were married 3 months later in an intimate ceremony on a beach at sunset. Sophie was the flower girl, throwing petals everywhere with enthusiastic abandon. Emma wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel. Ethan wore a suit but went barefoot in the sand. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the marriage, Sophie's tiny voice rang out. "I object." Everyone laughed and Emma scooped Sophie up. "Why do you object, baby?" "Because I want to marry Daddy, too," Sophie announced seriously. It made everyone laugh even harder. "You can stand up here with us," Ethan said, taking Sophie from Emma and holding her on his hip. "This is all 3 of us getting married. We are becoming a real family." The ceremony continued with Sophie between them. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Ethan kissed Emma deeply while Sophie giggled and covered her eyes. Their honeymoon was a family affair, 2 weeks in Hawaii where they played in the waves, built sand castles, and fell asleep together in a big hotel bed with Sophie between them. It was perfect. A year after their wedding, Emma discovered she was pregnant again. When she told Ethan, he cried with joy. This time, he would be there for everything. Every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every moment of the pregnancy, he would not miss a single second. Their son James was born on a rainy Tuesday morning. Ethan held Emma's hand through the entire labor, whispering encouragement and telling her how much he loved her. When their son was placed in his arms, Ethan looked at Emma with tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for our family. Thank you for everything." "I love you," Emma replied, exhausted but glowing. "Thank you for fighting for us." Sophie adored her baby brother, insisting on helping with everything. She would sing to him and bring him her stuffed dinosaurs to make him feel better when he cried. Watching his two children together, Ethan felt complete in a way he had never known before. 5 years after their reunion, Ethan sold his tech company for an astronomical sum. He had realized that all the money in the world meant nothing without his family. He started a foundation in Emma's name that provided free medical care to underserved communities. And Emma cut back her hours at the hospital to run it with him. They had 2 more children, twin girls named Grace and Hope. Their house was always full of laughter, chaos, toys, and love. Ethan never took a single moment for granted. Every morning, he woke up grateful. Every night he thanked whatever force in the universe had given him that heart attack that brought Emma back into his life. On their 10th wedding anniversary, as they watched their 4 children play in the backyard of their home, Emma leaned against Ethan's shoulder. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" she asked. "All the time," Ethan admitted. "If I had not had that heart attack, I think we would have eventually," Emma said. "Some love is just meant to be." Ethan pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. "I am the luckiest man alive. I got a second chance with the love of my life, and I promise I will never waste it." And he never did. Ethan spent the rest of his life loving Emma and their children with everything he had. He proved every single day that people can change, that mistakes can be forgiven, and that true love, when given a second chance, can be even stronger than before. The heart attack that almost killed him had actually saved his life in every way that mattered.